Council in session. Please stand for the Worshipful, the Mayor of the Borough Decorum, Councillor William Allen.
First of all, welcome to this new arrangement. I believe that the portfolio holder would like to explain.
Yes, good evening, members and residents. We're trying this out because the acoustics are so loud in here. We decided to try to make it smaller. They've got counting going on the other side, so that's we thought we'd try it out. And we've now got the residents behind us, so they're more involved with the meetings. So we'll see how we go this evening. If you've got any comments later on, can you email me and I'll take them forward and we'll see how we go. And if it works well, and I'll talk to IT and see if we can maybe keep the arrangement. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Weston. So, first of all, to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 28th of February.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to have a point of clarification. The minutes as printed are factually correct. However, I would like to say that the reason that Councillor Symington resigned and left her post in the Cabinet was because she had been selected as a parliamentary candidate and therefore felt it was appropriate. And so therefore I would suggest that while the Leader of the Opposition did actually say the words as printed, they were mistaken.
Can that be noted in this meeting's minutes? I've got Councillor Whitelow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do read the minutes and that they made a very good read. There's so many spelling mistakes in there, including the reference to Councillor Clink. And I think they should be checked in some way so that stuff like that doesn't slip through. It doesn't create a very good image for the public if we can't get our minutes totally accurately spelled. Or spelt even.
Thank you. We can retrospectively correct those spelling mistakes for this one and make sure we're more vigilant in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, moving on to declarations of interest. Do we have any? There's no public participation, so on to announcements. I would like to start by explaining there's some leaflets on your desks promoting forthcoming mayoral events. I'd be very glad of your support and of spreading the word about these various musical events and in particular the garden party, which is being trialled as an inclusive community event in place of the traditional dinner. I'd also like to report that many of you were very kind in supporting the walk around the boundary of the borough. Between us, we walked 105 kilometres, walked through 16 communities, interacted with 20 churches, community groups, or scouts groups, and it was enormous fun. We also had 4 fundraising events, and the whole event raised over £6,000. The link for sponsoring the event is still open if anybody wants to make a late contribution. Thank you very much. Any announcements by the Chief Executive?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got 2 announcements. The first is that there will be a Police and Crime Commissioner election on the Thursday, the 2nd of May, 2024. The verification of the ballot papers will be carried out on Friday, the 3rd of May from 10 a.m. and the count will take place on Saturday, the 4th of May from 10 a.m. Both the verification and the count will be held here at the Forum. For further details, please contact the elections team. And the second announcement is that on the 26th of March, I received notification that Councillor Goverdon Silwall left the Conservative Party and will continue as an independent councillor. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Tyndall, have you got any announcements?
If I may, Mr Mayor, I would like to give apologies for Councillor Deacon, Councillor Smith-Wright and Councillor Sadie Hobson.
And Councillor Williams?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Apologies on behalf of Councillor Barrow, Binder, Durrant and Timmis.
And Councillor Pesh?
Councillor Hannell.
Thank you very much. You will have all have received the reports by various cabinet members, so we can go straight to questions for, first of all, Councillor Tyndall as Leader of the Council. Sorry, he's giving a verbal update.
I have nothing further to add, but happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions for Councillor Tyndall? So, Councillor Bromham, Portfolio Holder for Neighbourhood Operations.
Nothing to add. Happy to take questions.
Councillor Guest.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Then, the neighbourhood working, the future neighbourhoods, why was the Gadebridge, Chorlton and Warner's End Neighbourhood Action Group, which has been going for some years and involves borough councillors, county councillors, the police and local residents getting together to work on the problems of the area, not consulted, as we could have given advice and support and be able to share.
Can we come to a
good practice
question,
on
please?
this. Why was the Gadebridge, Chorlton and Warner's End Neighbourhood Action Group not consulted about this, as we could have given advice on good practice?
Councillor Bromham.
Well, the project is in early stages, and so we looked at all the areas where we would start off a pilot scheme, and we certainly definitely want to engage with any neighbourhood groups. So if you can send us the details of that, we'll definitely engage with them when we move on to those areas.
Do you have a supplementary?
I do indeed. And were you not aware already of our neighbourhood action group for Gadebridge, Chorlton and Warner's End that has been going on for some years and taking action for some years?
Councillor Bromham.
No, I wasn't aware of them myself, but we haven't got to that stage yet of engaging with the other areas. We started off with the heights, and so we've done an initial look around that area, and we're prioritising the things that can be done there, and then we'll see how that goes, and then hopefully we can roll it out to the other areas. So it's a matter of engaging with the local communities, finding out the things that can be done, and then working out where we get the best value for money, and also getting the different departments together where things historically have fallen through the cracks, just want to, all these neighbourhoods, a lot of them are 70 years old now, and there's some things which maybe haven't been maintained that well, or there are opportunities, and also we really want to engage with the local residents to take more ownership of those areas as well. And the residents groups are really good contribution to that. So we definitely want to use that, and so if any councillors besides yourself have residents groups which can do that kind of thing, then let us know, and they'll definitely be incorporated in the programme.
Thank you, Councillor Bromham. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I just check so I don't miss my opportunity? Is car parking now under Councillor Bromham's responsibility? A yes or no would be for that bit.
Could be a trick question.
No, it's not a trick question.
In general, yes, the charging is still under the corporate and commercial, and where it's charged and how much it's charged. The enforcement and other practicalities are under the neighbourhoods portfolio.
You'll be pleased to know this is not related to charging. It's not even related to car parks, actually, but I just wanted to ask if we could have an update on the verge hardening programme, which seems to have not produced any verge hardening for quite a while now. I'm getting quite a number of emails from residents, and I know there's even been an FOI request about the programme. I just wonder if we could have an update when it might recommence.
Well, I know that Ian Ross mentioned that he'd had about 70 suggestions, that this was a little while ago, and the officers are working on it and working through the priorities as to where the need is greatest and the feasibility of implementation.
Thank you, Councillor Brumham. Councillor Mitchell. Oh,
Could I just press a bit further and ask, do we have any estimate of when a date might commence on any work?
is that 2 supplementaries sneaking in?
No, the first one was a clarification.
If I may clarify, a point of clarification, Mr Mayor. I would assure the Leader of the Opposition that I too am interested in the verge hardening programme because I have a number of sites in my own ward. However, you will recall that the verge hardening policy was halted and frozen prior to May last year, and so therefore we are now considering a new corporate plan. Verge hardening strategy is one of the issues that we are looking at. It's a question of finance, of course, because we have a 1.6 million budget gap to find for next year unless the new incoming government is going to be very generous to local councils. So all in all, I think most of us for our own local areas are very keen on verge hardening, but at the same time we have to take a view on the overall benefits of council and also, of course, the potential of making it worse for flash flooding should the grass areas be concreted over, which would mean more runoffs. Now, I have a member sitting next to me who is rather keen on that issue, so we are taking everything into the round, and when the new corporate plan is issued, you will be able to see exactly what is planned.
Thank you, Councillor Tyndall. Councillor Mitchell.
Is anything planned about the ever-increasing problem of commercial vehicles? This is for Councillor Brumham. Sorry, Councillor Brumham.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
There's an ever-increasing problem with commercial vehicles parking in neighbourhoods. I was just wondering if anything is planned for that.
We get lots of issues of this kind, most recently with some of the areas which have been built over the last 20 years or so, which don't have, where the roads are not adopted by the county council. And so I'm trying to find out now what all the actual parking regulations are in those areas, because they're not, the county council, whether it's the county council or the police or the borough council, it's very confusing. This sort of privatisation causes enormous complexities, and sometimes we have people just leaving a van, for example, on a pavement regularly outside somebody's house, and sometimes it can be blocking the pavement as well. And so we're trying to work through what those actual options are, and it doesn't seem that there are that many options, to be honest. Yeah, commercial vehicles in general, I think, as you've mentioned before, a lot of companies are trying to save money, reducing the size of their depots and expecting employees to take the vehicles home. So that is one of the factors that's increasing the parking stress in general. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Brumham. I just wondering if we could investigate if there are any schemes in place elsewhere in the country, nationwide, that might be working, because obviously I appreciate it's a really difficult situation to resolve. But as you mentioned, it is causing dangerous situations with visibility. We have many work vehicles in the gates.
Sorry, Councillor Mitchell, it's question, not statements.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're always looking for best practice amongst all the other districts, as well as and whether anybody's got any better ways of achieving it. And one of the big fundamental challenges is the formula that we use in planning for assessing the parking stress. I think it's called a Lambeth formula. And the problem there is that when a new development is proposed, it calculates the parking stress, and it can identify that there are surplus parking spaces. But at the same time, local residents and some of the councillors as well will be reporting that there is a shortage of spaces. So what we've got to avoid is this sort of continuous cycle of hardening the verges and at the same, to add more spaces at the same time as taking them away by licensing more HMOs and also local developments that don't have very much space.
Thank you, Councillor Bronham.
Do we have any further questions for Councillor Bronham? In which case, we'll move on to Councillor England, portfolio holder for climate and ecological emergency.
Apologies, it's me. Nothing to add to my report. Happy to take questions.
We have Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor England, you mentioned the fact that some cars are second and third cars are unnecessary. I have residents who, especially a husband and wife team, are care workers who whiz around the town. Are their cars unnecessary? Because clearly they can't get a bus to each and individual house they visit. So do you want everybody to have one car?
Councillor England.
I thought I got the question mark, but then you stayed standing, so I wondered. As you say, some second cars and third cars are unnecessary. They are, but not for somebody who needs to go from door to door to door to door, quite clearly, unless care companies are going to reinvent all their rotas so that they can go on a bike. I don't think that's likely. But I do say some, and the meaning of some is not all.
Do you have a follow-up at all?
I do have on a different part. On solar panels that you said are being put on Hemel Leisure Centre, where will these solar panels be made and where will they come from? If they're made in China, it will be a hell of a carbon footprint for them.
I think we've had the question, so.
Saying where will they be made?
At this point, all we've got is the award. There's now a process, a project plan to work out how that's going to be done. I would certainly hope it's going to involve local companies fitting them, and certainly we can take on board your comments about China. Other producers of solar panels are available. In fact, I heard the other day, perhaps yesterday, that solar panels are now being used as fence panels because they're so cheap.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Any further questions for Councillor England? So we'll move on to Councillor Wilkie, the portfolio holder for Place.
Thank you, Mayor. You've all had my report and I'm here for any questions. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I had intended to table a motion for tonight's meeting, but it missed the deadline, and it will have to wait until the next business meeting we have in July. But ahead of that, I would like to ask this evening, in light of the planning appeal hearing that took place in this room last week, which was intensely embarrassing for the council, could I ask the portfolio holder if she agrees with me that in future the scheme of delegation under which planning decisions are delegated to officers should be amended to exclude all major applications, so that we don't arrive in a situation in the future where officers are taking legal decisions about backtracking on refusing planning permission because it involves development in the green belt, purely due to legal arguments without having addressed some very pertinent planning issues that meant that it was still a justified decision. Thank you, Mayor.
I think there was a question earlier on in that.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not quite sure what the question is, but I do understand the thrust of what you're saying, Councillor Anderson, so thank you. You will know, having been in this position, that when we are considering planning decisions, and we did refuse it in the first instance, as you know. This involves a balance of competing factors. The main factors that the critical issue for us here was that it was whether very special circumstances outweighed the harm to the Greenbelt. Unfortunately, the reports that came back showed that the larger issue was that we actually needed to protect the beechwood, Chiltern beechwood sack. So then the issue was whether there was a sound solution. So the position moved. So at no point have the council backtracked, quite the opposite. We have vociferously withheld against this appeal. You know, because there was 3 days of hearings. The other issue was that the planning inspector didn't, I don't think, fully understand the issues in front of him at first. And he was accepting the arguments of the other side on reasonableness. And basically, their argument was we're being unreasonable, not allowing them. And as you also know, Councillor Anderson, that's because we haven't adopted a plan yet. So they were able to make the arguments that actually we should allow this development. Again, we have fought that. The position we're in now is that we seem to get across to the planning inspector at the third day that in fact sound is an essential element, that a Grampian condition isn't effective, and so we're now awaiting his decision on June the 18th. Thank you, Mayor.
I think there was something in there about whether the delegated authority was going to be reviewed. Is that right? So would you like to say something about that?
Sorry, the question was so long. I don't think this is a situation about delegated authority. I think this is about the fact that a position for any planning development, the position moves as the evidence comes across. But certainly it's something I'd be happy to talk to you about, Councillor Anderson, outside the chamber. Thank you.
Did you have a supplementary?
I do have a brief corollary, Mr. Mayor. Does the portfolio holder agree with me that if the decision hadn't been delegated to officers under the scheme of delegation because there weren't any contrary statutory comments in the first place, then members could have remained in control of the situation and been able to take decisions, whereas in this particular case, because it had been delegated, members were completely powerless to be involved in the issue.
Councillor Wilkie?
Thank you. No, I don't agree, Councillor Anderson, not least because obviously as the portfolio holder I'm fully briefed as we progress these developments, and also whether it was members or whether it was an officer, as you know, we have to follow the legal advice that we're given and we have to look at the development as it progresses. I do think, though, that you do have a point that when something is going to be so impactful on a neighbourhood, then it should definitely go to the development committee. And again, that's something I'd be certainly happy to talk to you about how we can ensure that that is part of that process. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkie. Councillor Colette-Lowe, I think you got cut off there.
I'm always happy to give way to Councillor Anderson. You usually have something worth listening to say. Right. I notice in the arts and culture section of the report that you talk about the subway painting, which is to be applauded. However, the report makes no mention of the fact that the guiding force behind the Grove Hill Astley Cooper subway was in fact Councillor Banks and PC Charlie Eek. And also that the funding for that was provided by myself through Hertfordshire County Council locality funding. Were you aware of that?
Councillor Wilkie.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, these are just over briefs. They don't go into detail. But I'd be happy to put those extra details in and send it out again for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Whitelow. Councillor Mitchell.
Hello, Councillor Wilkie. I was really impressed with the Subways public art scheme, and I was wondering if you could possibly look at extending that into local neighbourhoods to encourage community cohesion, so artwork within the neighbourhoods themselves. We don't have a subway in Guilbridge apart from to the park, which then goes out to my ward anyway, but I've had requests for that from the residents, so I'd really appreciate that being considered.
Councillor Wilkie.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. I'll pass that on to officers. They're always happy to hear positive, constructive feedback. I'd be very interested to meet with you to talk about your particular ward. We found that this particular type of artwork, and I know Councillor Symington has been working at this as county level, and we've also been working at Dacorum Borough Council level, has been really positively impact the neighbourhood, but also it seems to give an ownership to the neighbourhood, and it stops further damage to the neighbourhood. So I agree with you, it's a fantastic progressive way of dealing with some antisocial behaviour, but also it brings art into your living space. So I'd be happy to meet you any time if there's anything particularly you'd like for your ward. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkie. I'd like to do that. I'll be in touch.
Thank you. Any further questions for Councillor Wilkie? If not, we'll move on to Councillor Weston and the portfolio for people and transformation.
Thank you, Mayor. You've seen my report. I'm happy to take.
Councillor Bax, I believe you've got a question.
I'm happy to take any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Councillor Bax.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just be curious to have an update, if possible. I was pleased to see that there is funding that's been secured for the playground refurbishments. I'm aware that Councillor Timmis inquired earlier on in the month whether or not any of those play equipments would be suitable for children with disability.
Excuse me, Mayor, I don't think that's under my portfolio holder. I think that's under Councillor Wilkie's. Thank you.
Would Councillor Wilkie like to respond?
Apologies, Councillor Banks. I was making notes for my last question. Could you just repeat the question, please?
Mr. Mayor, I was inquiring about the play equipment that will, the funding that's been secured to upgrade the play equipment across the open spaces, and whether or not any of that would be suitable for children with disability.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Banks. Yes, it will. I think you're used to this part of the portfolio, which has fallen under me now. We are doing a lot of work with regarding to send an inclusivity across adventure playgrounds, but I believe the playgrounds themselves fall under my colleague, Councillor Bonham. So I think probably what we could do is take your question away and give you a proper written answer. Thank you.
Okay, that was going slightly out of turn, so any supplementaries can be taken up with Councillor Wilkie direct. Do we have any other questions for Councillor Weston? Then we can move on to Councillor Capozzi, the Corporate and Commercial Services.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I'm sure you've all read my report. Yeah, if you have read my report and if you have any questions, I'd be pleased to take them. Thank you.
Councillor Guest.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What is the timescale for the council's new corporate plan?
Councillor Capozzi.
Thank you for the question. Corporate plan actually comes under Councillor Weston. So apologies, I can't actually answer that.
Okay, we'll allow
Mr.
Councillor
Mayor,
Weston.
if I may clarify, the clue is in the title, transformation, so I think Councillor Weston could help here.
Okay, but we'll allow this to go out of turn, but without supplementaries. Councillor Weston?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yes, we're still going through the corporate plan. We've been discussing it with a subgroup, and we've come to members. We've had a way day. We're now going back to the subgroup to just confirm all the ideas, etc. And it should be out, I'm hoping, within the next few months. But we'll let you know. I can give you a time scale further on an email. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Weston. As that was out of turn, I won't take a supplementary, but I'm sure you can get more detail from Councillor Weston outside the meeting. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Apologies, Mayor, I do have to ask about parking charges. Councillor Johnson and I have, it was indirect via the leader of the council, but on 2 occasions, Councillor Johnson and I have requested a meeting to discuss the parking charges because they have a particularly detrimental effect on Kings Langley High Street. Can I ask the portfolio holder if she could agree to such a meeting? Thank you.
Councillor Kaposi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Absolutely, have no issue with having a meeting with you at all. We can put something in the diary. Thank you.
Do you have any supplementary? Any further questions for Councillor Kaposi? We can move on to Councillor Diani, Housing and Property Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I take report as read. Happy to take any question.
Do we have any questions for Councillor Diani? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the February meeting, when we were setting the budget, I asked Councillor Diani whether she felt it was appropriate that the residents had been notified of their rent increase before the council formally took a decision, i.e. bypassing or ignoring the sovereignty of council in that decision. It seems a bit of a mix-up in the answer that I received as to whether it was a consultation. Well, I was fully aware it wasn't a consultation. My question is, can we have an undertaking that in future we won't send out notices to our residents before or which seek to bypass the decision-making of this council?
Councillor Diani.
Thank you for the question. Yes, that's correct. So this has been discussed with the officers and the note's been taken that we would make sure this wouldn't happen again. I'm sure the answer does clarify that why we had to do this, as there was a full council meeting moved around, and for that reason we had to send, otherwise we would have been a month behind to give the notice. But yeah, that's definitely been taken care of and won't repeat. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Williams? Councillor Adeleke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've just lost my question on the floor. The rebranding of Osborne to Cado or something like that. How have the residents been informed of this rebranding, and what has been their reaction to it?
Councillor Diani.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Adeleke. Just to repeat, so how we have informed our residents, and what was the second question, sorry?
How have we informed residents about the change of Osborne's to Ocado?
Oh yes, so yes, the information has been through multiple channels, through written letters, through social media, through our website. So yes, the information has gone out to the residents.
Do you have a further question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. And my second question is, how have the residents reacted to the change?
Thank you. I don't think we've received much reactions, except I've seen some posts on social media, which I don't take it as we've had it from residents. So it's very much where residents might feel that it's just a rebranding, but there is a change of work ethics involved as well. So I don't think we've had much feedback from residents as such. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Diani. Have we got any further questions for housing and property? In which case we'll move on to agenda item 6, Business from the last council meeting, there are no outstanding actions. Item 7, Cabinet referrals. Over to you, Councillor Tyndall.
Thank you. I would like to propose that 7.1 CA 3324 Senior Officer Pay Policy is accepted.
Have we got that agreed? Thank you. Item 8, there are no referrals from the Overview and Scrutiny Committees. And are there any committees, changes to committee membership under item 9? So starting with you, Councillor Tyndall. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One committee change on behalf of the Conservative Group, Councillor Walker to replace Councillor Silwell on Development Management.
And Councillor Pesh.
No changes.
Thank you all.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, item 10, I'd like the council, it is in writing in front of you, but there is a change of a day of the SPAY meeting from the 10th to the 9th of July.
Thank you very much. And that concludes the business of the evening. And allows a pleasant amount of time for people to come and join me in the Mayor's Parlour for a drink if you so wish. Thank you very much.